Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Drak's 12 Days of Anime Characters. And as we're nearing the final day, it's time for us to talk about our final villain of the list, and a genuinely evil one at that, as we discuss Shinobu Sensui of Yu Yu Hakusho. Now, technically, Shinobu Sensui is not the overall villain of Yu Yu Hakusho. He is technically the third villain in the third saga, or Chapter Black, as a lot of people know it to be. And actually, he wasn't a bad guy for his entire life. That's one of the reasons that I like him so much. To bring people up to speed, Shinobu Sensui actually had a very noble childhood where he basically got enlisted very early to be a spirit detective by Koenma. Koenma saw a lot of innate talent within Shinobu and actually considered him to be, and I quote, the perfect type of spirit detective. He was able to sense the demons, and he was able to destroy them. He didn't have to have power bequeathed to him like, say, Yusuke Urameshi did. But ultimately, as the story goes on, we start to see one fatal flaw in the perfection that is Shinobu Sensui. He has very, well, black and white thinking. No, I'm not saying he's a racist or anything like that. He just has a very narrow way of looking at things. Humans are good, and demons are bad. Until one night, where his line of thinking was forever changed, as he got to see the dark side of humanity. The humans that he had sworn to protect were actually harming demons trying to pass through dimensional holes. And at that point, as Koenma put it so eloquently, he was then surrounded by truckloads of gray. And that is where the beginning of Shinobu as a villain comes into place. As in order for him to handle what he was witnessing at that time, and because his narrow thinking wouldn't allow him to acknowledge it, he then had to do the unthinkable. He had to split his personality to be able to handle all of it. And also be the vengeful killer that he needed to be with all of these horrible humans, and in turn created the murderous Kazuya within himself. Kazuya technically is the one that murdered all of the humans and demons out of mercy killing in that whole incident, but since it's Shinobu's face, he's the one that is blamed for it. And after that point, he started to acknowledge that because of the truckloads of gray, humanity wasn't necessarily worth defending, and thus sets off on his own plot and the creation of multiple other personalities to be able to annihilate humankind. For example, he also creates the personality Minoru, the liar. Anything that he needs to do through subtlety, manipulation, through outright lying, Minoru takes care of. You almost could say that he is the politician of Shinobu's personalities. But while a lot of people might necessarily say that this is an amazing thing for a villain, how does that make him a powerful villain? Well, it actually helps him to unlock unearthly power very quickly, as opposed to spending one's entire lifetime trying to attain it, aka Genkai actually tried to attain his power and couldn't do it, but since he had 7 different personalities, the time was significantly chunked down. And this guy is truly a horrible human being, as he even makes the characters that we have come to love, Yusuke, Kuwabara, Kurama, and Hiei, have to do unspeakable things in order to be able to finally confront Sensui. One of the ones that sticks with me is the fact that he basically made Kurama murder a 10-year-old child in order to pass through his territory and be able to move further into the cave where Sensui was. And all of this, mind you, is basically to show the heroes that the truckloads of gray he had witnessed that very night are just as existent in them as they are in himself. And what's ultimately even sad and bittersweet about this character is that when Yusuke finally does face off against him, the roles are very clear. Shinobu is perceived as the monster that is trying to kill off humankind, and Yusuke, the noble warrior, trying to fend off that inevitable fate. But by the time that the end actually comes for Shinobu, the roles are entirely reversed, as Yusuke does die again. Except now we have found out that he has some mysterious demon lineage that we didn't know about, and when he goes to Demon World to finally confront Sensui, Sensui is a little bit more noble, and Yusuke kind of isn't. And it's actually an interesting moment within Yusuke's character, as it's the only villain, aside from the one that came after, that Yusuke didn't take down. All of the other culprits that Yusuke has taken down, he's done so himself, but in the middle of the fight with Sensui, a presence takes over his body, and in turn kills Sensui in the most murderous way possible for a demon to do, which in turn plagues Yusuke and leads into the next arc. But it's interesting to be able to see the roles entirely reverse, as Yusuke is now perceived as the monster, and Shinobu the noble warrior. And that's going to go ahead and do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and when we come back tomorrow for our final video, I've got a little bit of a treat in store, so take care.